At dawn, in the heart of what we now call Angkor Wat, our ancestor stands barefoot on the cool stone floor, surrounded by towering pillars and carved walls that shimmer with soft morning light. The air is thick with mist, breath, and memory. He does not speak in words, for there are none. Instead, he opens his chest to the silence and releases a single, pure tone. It rises, swells, and returns, echoing from stone to stone in waves of perfect resonance. Others join him, their voices weaving into a harmonic braid that fills the temple not with noise, but with knowing. The architecture sings back, not passively, but as an instrument precisely tuned to these human frequencies. In that moment, language, body, and space are one. There is no need to describe unity. They are unity, vibrating in relational coherence. This is not ritual as performance, but as cognition, not sound as expression, but as truth. This wasn't language as we use it today. It was sound and meaning fused together into a single coherent system. Long ago, communication wasn't abstract. It was embodied, resonant, and complete. Our ancestor Homo sapiens had possessed vocal capabilities for over 200,000 years. But once they ventured out of Africa 75,000 years ago, they weren't alone in their communicative evolution. For tens of thousands of years, they coexisted and interbred in Asia with another advanced hominid species, the Denisovans. The Denisovans were remarkable. Genetic studies reveal that they lived alongside modern humans until surprisingly recently, as close as 25,000 years ago, leaving a genetic imprint still detectable today. Having evolved separately from the non-verbal Homo erectus, different biological emphasis could produce different vocal capabilities. Ancient resonant structures suggest they were focused less on the rapid articulation of symbolic speech and more on clarity, resonance, and simplicity of sound. Denisovans may not have used language the way we do now. Instead, their communication likely revolved around tonal patterns, rhythmic chanting, and acoustic resonance. Archaeological finds like the enigmatic structures at Gunung Padang in Indonesia, dated by some scientists to nearly 24,000 years ago, and the famous Göbekli Tepe site in Turkey, deliberately buried more than 12,000 years ago, suggest civilizations far older and far more acoustically and architecturally sophisticated than our textbooks acknowledge. These monumental sites were built without writing. Their language was the stone itself, precisely shaped chambers, resonating sound patterns that communicated relational completeness and harmony directly into their communal cognition. In places like Angkor Wat, new laser scans have recently revealed vast networks of ancient cities hidden beneath dense jungle growth, cities far older, far more sophisticated, and more interconnected than previously imagined. Such discoveries challenge traditional chronologies, compelling us to rethink our timeline entirely. It becomes plausible, even likely, that structures like Angkor Wat are echoes of a very ancient human past, repositories of acoustic and architectural knowledge inherited from interactions between Denisovans and Homo sapiens. They represent civilizations not of words and writing, but of harmonic resonance structures literally built to speak without a single inscribed word. This ancient way of knowing was a triadic unity of biology, acoustic expression, and relational cognition. It wasn't merely a language, it was a mode of existence, a complete way of engaging with reality. To communicate was to resonate. To resonate was to understand, and to understand was to embody the world itself. That was humanity's original harmonic language, the logos in its fullest expression. But this remarkable coherence didn't last forever. The ancient story of the Tower of Babel describes a critical moment when humanity, once unified by a single language, became fractured, scattered, unable to understand one another. It's often interpreted merely as a myth explaining linguistic diversity, but it may represent a profound, historically real moment in our evolutionary past. When Denisovans and Homo sapiens interbred, their offspring inherited a hybrid cognitive potential, remarkably flexible, yet tragically unmoored. Denisovans communicated through constrained, resonant frequencies, a language inherently tied to biological precision in acoustic spaces. Modern Homo sapiens, by contrast, developed the biological capacity for rapid symbolic speech, unconstrained by environmental resonance or bodily rhythm. The fusion of these two cognitive worlds, harmonic and symbolic, did not lead to immediate enlightenment. Instead, it led to fragmentation. The biological constraints that previously held human communication within resonant relational coherence were lifted. Language became less about harmonic alignment and more about abstract description. People could suddenly say infinitely more, yet understand each other far less clearly. This genetic cultural event, this true Babel moment, marked the loss of the triadic harmony that once characterized human interaction. The coherence between biology, our vocal structures, acoustic expression, resonant environments, and cognition, relational completeness, unraveled. Our ancestors, no longer tied to resonant communication, began to rely more heavily on symbolic words, syntax, and eventually writing to preserve meaning externally. We built towers of abstraction, language, and thought structures increasingly divorced from lived experience. Stone chambers once designed for precise acoustic resonance gave way to symbolic monuments, abstract structures expressing authority rather than coherence. This was the real Babel negation, not simply the diversification of languages, but the breaking apart of a unified cognitive and communicative reality. In the wake of this Babel moment, places like Angkor Wat became misunderstood enigmas. Their acoustic designs, once clear in purpose, appeared mysterious. The societies capable of creating and understanding such resonant structures dissolved. They left behind archaeological puzzles, rather than vibrant communities of sound and sense. And so, the profound acoustic knowledge of ancient Denisovan human hybrid cultures faded, and modern archaeologists are left to misdate, misinterpret, and underestimate their sophisticated accomplishments. But today, through careful archaeological and genetic investigation, we are beginning to recover the depth of what we once lost. New technologies like laser mapping in Cambodia reveal that beneath the jungle canopy lie the echoes of an ancient harmonic civilization, far older and far more connected than we previously believed. The stones of Angkor Wat and similar sites worldwide may yet again speak clearly, guiding us back to a more holistic understanding of our shared human past. The Babel negation separated our tongues, but it didn't destroy the resonance entirely. It remains waiting beneath layers of misunderstanding and forgotten history to guide us once again toward unity, harmony, and profound relational understanding. But here's the good news hidden in our evolutionary journey, embedded within ancient biblical narratives and still resonating within the acoustic stones of temples long silent. The original harmonic grammar of humanity never truly vanished. It lives in us still, quietly waiting to be remembered and reawakened. We find it not in abstract symbols or complex syntax, but in the direct harmony between biology, sound, and cognition. Consider your own body, your breathing, your heartbeat, your voice. Every breath you take naturally follows rhythm. When you sing with others, something remarkable happens. Your heartbeats begin to align, your breathing synchronizes. Human biology itself is tuned to resonance and rhythmic coherence. Our bodies yearn to speak in harmony, to express through patterns, not isolated fragments. Now think about how sound moves you. Think of a moment in a concert hall or a cathedral when the acoustics of the space itself seem to lift your spirit, clarify your thoughts, and unify the crowd into a single emotional organism. We still instinctively design our spaces to resonate, to create acoustic experiences that make us feel whole again. And your mind itself naturally searches for relational completeness. When faced with an incomplete story, your brain instantly seeks resolution. We are driven by a fundamental cognitive instinct to connect one idea to another and then connect both to a third, forming a complete relational picture. That's why mysteries engage us so deeply. We are biologically and cognitively predisposed to closure. We can restore our connection to this primal harmony, the logos, by consciously returning these three elements into alignment. To realign language with our biology means to speak intentionally, rhythmically, resonantly. To realign language with acoustics means designing environments not as neutral containers but as active partners in communication. And to realign language with cognition means consciously structuring our communication around complete relational patterns. Triadic patterns that establish homeostatic balance. 22 patterns that appear throughout scripture, myth, and history itself. That is because each triad isn't an arbitrary rule. It's an observable reality. Consider basic coexistence. Coexistence is the condition in which three elements do not merely sit side by side, but define and sustain each other through their relationships. None of them makes full sense alone. Each draws its meaning from how it relates to the others. Consider the first act of creation in Genesis, the separation of day, night, and the establishment of time. Day and night may seem like simple opposites. They only become meaningful through their alternation through time. Without time, there is no cycle, no duration, no rhythm, just two static states with no motion between them. But likewise, day without night is formless. Night without day is meaningless. And time without the contrast of light and darkness has nothing to measure. Remove anyone and the others unravel. Each element becomes real only through its dynamic interplay with the other two. It's not just that they happen together. It's that each one only becomes what it is through the presence of the others. That is the structure of coexistence. We see this pattern everywhere in life. In biology, no cell, organ, or system works in isolation. The body thrives through mutual dependence. Lungs, heart, and brain interlink so tightly that the function of one is both shaped by and necessary for the others. In cognition, perception, memory, and attention coarise. Each is sharpened and focused through the interplay of the others. And in communication, there's always a sender, a receiver, and a shared context. Remove anyone, and the exchange collapses. What we often think of as individual is actually the emergent result of relational dynamics. This is where music becomes more than metaphor. To express coexistence musically, consider what happens when two distinct tones are played together. The ear hears more than just the sum of those frequencies. New patterns emerge in the overlap, a resonance that wasn't present in either tone alone. These aren't illusions. They're real wave interactions, producing combination tones, beat frequencies, and harmonic reinforcement. The harmony is not a third note being played. It's a phenomenon that only exists through the relationship between the two. Now add a third tone that completes the chord. Suddenly, the sonic landscape transforms again, not by simple addition, but by creating a fully interdependent structure where every note is redefined in context. Remove anyone, and the harmonic identity collapses. This is what coexistence feels like in sound, a living resonance where each part is only fully itself through the presence of the others. The ear doesn't just hear the notes, it hears the between, the among, the shared reality that only emerges in unity. Now imagine a group chant where voices fall into sync, not through commands, but by listening and adjusting to one another. In that moment, coexistence is no longer an idea. It is a felt experience. The structure of the music teaches the lesson, meaning presence and identity are not isolated facts, but shared vibrations. Or consider cyclical reinforcement. Reinforcement is the dynamic where three elements form a cycle of support, each one strengthening the next in a continuous loop. One action leads to another, which leads to a third, and then back again to feed the first. This isn't just repetition, it's escalation through feedback. What matters here is the presence of three distinct points, enough to create direction, return, and rhythm. With only two, you get a simple back and forth. With three, you generate motion that builds over time, gaining force with every cycle. Biologically, we see this triadic reinforcement in systems designed to amplify activity. Neuron pathways that fire more easily with use. Hormonal systems that loop through stimulation and response. Or muscle memory that becomes stronger each time it's engaged. Cognitively, it's how learning happens, not just through exposure, but through repeated success. Understanding leads to confidence. This leads to deeper engagement, and that leads to more understanding. And in communication, it's how messages become shared norms. One person signals, another echoes, a third affirms. Suddenly, it's a group truth. The three roles of initiation, propagation, and confirmation lock the pattern in place. Musically, reinforcement operates at the core of how we're wired to respond. Imagine three beats. The first introduces a pulse, the second confirms it, the third completes the phrase and loops it back to the start. That triplet becomes a cycle your body wants to follow. This structure taps into our psychology. The brain craves pattern. And when it hears a triadic rhythm that repeats, it locks in, predicts, and rewards itself for being right. Over time, this creates a kind of trance, not because the sound is complex, but because the pattern is trustworthy. In a society that communicates through rhythm and resonance rather than speech, this triadic reinforcement becomes a language of its own, training attention, encoding instruction, and guiding behavior through repeated felt alignment. These melodic structures become a complete grammar of relational understanding. Instead of naming and describing, we resonate meaning directly. Communication becomes embodied, intuitive, and complete. Words become unnecessary because meaning is no longer externalized in symbols. It is internalized in the experience of harmonic alignment. Imagine now entering a structure designed intentionally as a resonant chamber, not merely a building, but a living instrument. As you step inside, you begin to chant a certain melodic pattern. Immediately, the architecture amplifies and clarifies your voice, responding to you in precise acoustic harmonics. The space itself guides your sound into the correct relational patterns. You're not speaking about unity. You're experiencing it directly. You're not describing a complex idea. You're activating a complete relational logic, effortlessly recognized and felt by everyone present. The architecture of your body and mind synchronize, becoming a unified system of understanding. This kind of communication transforms thinking fundamentally. We move away from the linearity of modern thought toward relational completeness. Our memory no longer relies on external archives and written records. Instead, knowledge becomes fully embodied and performed, directly experienced in collective rituals. Truth ceases to be merely stated or argued about. Truth becomes something we harmonize with, something we resonate with and participate in. The story of Babel wasn't simply about language confusion, it symbolized a deeper loss of harmonic alignment. When our hybrid species began speaking without constraints, we felt free. But we became disconnected from the grounding forces of biology, acoustic resonance, and relational completeness. In our quest to build infinitely upwards, we neglected the relational foundations that gave meaning to our words and actions. But now we have a chance to rebuild, not towers of abstract symbols, but temples of resonance and meaning. We don't need endless bricks of arbitrary language. We need stones shaped by the natural resonance of biology, sound, and cognition. We need structures that help us speak harmonically, spaces that guide our voices into patterns of wholeness, and rituals that remind us continuously of our connection to each other and to the world. Restoring resonance means reuniting language with our bodies, not limiting expression, but giving it depth and meaning again. It means reclaiming architecture as our acoustic partner, designing environments that speak with us. It means reclaiming our cognition from fragmentation. We must consciously seek relational completeness instead of isolated facts. We stand now at an extraordinary turning point. We have accumulated more words and information than at any other moment in history. But words alone will never bring completeness. To speak is not enough. We must resonate. We must harmonize. We must restore our language, our buildings, our rituals, and our thoughts into a unity grounded in relational harmony. The ancient Logos, this primal grammar of resonance and completeness, never truly vanished. It's still here, inside every breath we take, every heartbeat we share, every note we sing together. The Logos is not a word, it is a rhythm, a pattern, a harmony, waiting patiently for us to remember it. Babel was a negation that demands reinterpretation, not as a punishment, but as a challenge. Let us not merely speak about unity and understanding. Let us embody it, resonate it, live it. The harmony we seek is already within us, waiting only for us to begin.